by entering this video, you have won a visit to Joey Drew Studios, the place where your favorite killer cartoons are born. Get ready to be immortalized and hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notifications so you won't miss our next videos. These are the 25 amazing secrets of Bendy and the Ink Machine. Bendy is a cartoon character created by Henry Stein 30 years before the great studio disaster happened. Its creators said that the name Bendy came about when they mistakenly typed the name of a Blender file, blendy.blend. They liked it so much that they named it like that. This character is inspired by the cartoons of the 30s, mostly Felix the Cat and Mickey Mouse. In fact, some earlier sketches of Bendy show that on the back of his gloves there were 3 lines like the ones on Mickey's gloves, but in the end they were changed to 2 circles to be different from those of the mouse and others. In the art department in Chapter 1, you can find a work table with some drawings of Bendy on it. At first it may look like a normal sketch, but if we move far enough away and go back to the table, the drawing will change pose. This happens several times so you can see the different shapes of the character. After its release, the Chapter 3 of Bendy and the Ink Machine was updated with a funny Easter egg. It turns out that on top of one of the boxes, you can find a pair of smashed headphones. But why is this thing here? YouTuber TZK Unit triggered a bug in the game that caused him to lose control while playing this chapter, and he ended up smashing his headphones against the table. He reported it to the developers, and as a thank you after fixing it, they added those headphones to the chapter. And so ends a story of revenge and rampant rage. While Bendy and the Ink Machine was in development, Joey Drew Studios proposed to the fans a drawing contest to be included in the game. The winning fan art appeared on the studio's walls in Chapters 2, 3, and 4, and they also sent boxes with merchandising and free copies of the game as prizes. This kind of contest became quite fashionable because later the creators of Poppy Playtime did something similar in Chapter 2. As we go through the death corridor, we can hear some strange noises. But they actually make sense. They are reverse recordings of quotes spoken by Henry Stein in Chapter 1.
Alright, Joey. I'm here. Alright, Joey. I'm here.
In each of the 5 chapters, we can find a secret room behind a poster of Boris. If we go through the wall, we will find a rather strange character, kinda like a doodle. This is the mascot of the studio The Meatly Games, who developed part of the game and who put this character as an Easter egg in all the chapters. In Chapter 3, we will meet our great and faithful friend Boris, but besides taking care of him and preparing him some delicious soup, we can also give him one more reward for dessert. Right behind us and under the shelf, there's a bone on the floor that we can pick up and give to Boris. He will put it in his mouth, and from then on, he will hold it all the time. At the beginning of Chapter 2, in one of the corridors, we can find a cardboard Bendy leaning against a wall. If we break it, nothing will happen, but if we turn around and move far enough away, the cardboard will rebuild itself. No matter how many times we break it, this diabolical cardboard cutout will magically reappear. The creators of Bendy and the Ink Machine knew that some players would dig around the game's files and boundaries to find hidden clues, but if we try to mod the scenery to get out of bounds, we will find a horrifying message that reads, "Wandering around is a terrible sin." The worst thing is Bendy's face, which looks like he's gonna kill us at any moment. We think this is a little joke from the developer team if you try to see things you shouldn't be seeing. Bertram Piedmont was in charge of creating Bendyland and its great rides. His fate was terrible because due to Joey Drew's experiments, he ended up merging with one of his rides forever. In the game, we will have to defeat him to finish with his life, but before starting the battle, we can ride on one of his wagons to give us a little tour of the attractions. Maybe the developers of Bendy and the Ink Machine really liked the Legends of Zelda saga and included the Seeing tool as a reference to the Lens of Truth that appears in Zelda Ocarina of Time for Nintendo 64. Both items reveal hidden messages or things to the naked eye, so they could have been inspired by this object to create it. Among all the hidden messages that we can discover thanks to the Seeing tool, one of them is a small Easter egg that makes reference to the Portal Puzzle saga. It turns out that if you look at one side of this box in Chapter 4, you will see a heart drawn on it, a reference to the iconic Portal Companion Cube, which we had to use to solve the challenges of GLaDOS, and of course, that kept you company. In the trailer for Chapter 2, you can hear a mysterious whistling sound. If you want to hear it in the game, you have to get almost to the end of Chapter 2, and instead of heading straight to the ink puddle, you'll have to turn around and go back. Once there, you'll have to wait a while to start hearing it. Sammy Lawrence ended up becoming the monster that scares you so much because he went crazy working for Joey Drew. The pressure he had at work made him addicted to ink, and after drinking several bottles, he was transformed into this creature that pursues you in the game. When he was not yet completely insane, Sammy claimed that Bendy was always watching him, and maybe that's why he watches you hiding in some places in the chapter. Behind this fence, you can see his shadow lurking to end our lives. In the office lobby, you can see a reference to the game BioShock written on the appointment board. If you look at the name written at 1015, you can read F. Fontaine, a probable reference to Frank Fontaine from BioShock, the main antagonist of the first installment. Also, in the game you carry a wrench in your hand. The fact of using this tool to kill enemies could also be a small reference to BioShock, because it is the tool used by the main character in BioShock to attack enemies in hand-to-hand combat. Bacon soup cans are items that can be found in every chapter of the game and can be used to restore our character's vitality. But why bacon soup and not mushrooms, taking hearts, or eating hot dogs for that matter? The fact that there are cans of bacon soup everywhere is no coincidence, because it's the favorite food of one of its creators, namely Paul Crawford. In fact, it's a food that really exists, and he claims that it's not only delicious, but it's actually good for your soul. Now I kinda wanna try it too. The game is called Bendy and the Ink Machine for a reason. You have to explore the animation studio to find out what the heck happened to the ink machine. In order for all the chapters to have coherence with each other, from time to time you will see the ink machine go down to its final place, a way to remind us of the purpose of your visit. The game ends when our protagonist Henry arrives at Joey Drew's house and he asks him to come visit the studio, which seems like a flashback to before the game started. One of the most widely discussed and plausible theories is that Joey Drew was jealous that Henry had created the successful Bendy and had a happy family, while he became so obsessed with his work that he ended up losing everything. It seems that his plan to create real cartoons went so far that he needed human souls to bring them to life. To do that, he hatched a plan to invite former workers to take a look at the studio, and once there, kill them to get their souls and imbue them with ink. The proof is in the coffins with the names of all the people who were invited. Not all of them accepted the invitation, and that is shown in some of the letters that Joey has pinned on the wall. People like Wally Franks or Allison Connor did not want to go, and luckily they escaped a terrible fate. The game theorists realized that the characters that were not human fell apart in ink, while the workers sacrificed in the machine kept their bodies after dying. Such is the case in Susie or Bertram. So, in Bendy and the Ink Machine, you are Henry Stein, Bendy's creator, who was also cheated by Joey Drew into visiting the studio and falling into the ink trap. Many people believe that the player is punished to relive all these looping events over and over again. On the 11th floor, there's a hidden message that can only be seen if you press the musical instruments in a specific order. The sequence is bass, drum, violin, piano, and drum. After this, you can hear the voice of the music department director, Sammy Lawrence, saying,
"We've all been waiting, but now he will set us free."
You may have missed some of these details. If you look closely at the billiard balls in Chapter 2, you will see that one of them is actually an eye. In Chapter 3, when you touch the ink blob, you can see for a few moments during its change that it turns into a skull. In Chapter 2, there is an optional room where you can find a small organ. If we play it, the instrument will make a sound, but the most mysterious thing about it is that when the note finishes playing, you can hear the wailing cry of a man. If you do it 5 times, you'll get the achievement Johnny's Broken Heart. Some theorists say that after the terrible things happened in the studio, where a lot of ink flooded into the music department, Johnny died and ended up merging his soul with his organ. As a result, you can hear his screams of agony as he's turned into an inert object forever. The scythe is a secret weapon that we can find in Chapter 5 of Bendy and the Ink Machine. In order to get it, first we have to trigger all secret horror visions of Chapters 1 to 4 without dying. This will make this powerful item appear when we reach the administration maze. In addition, when you use the scythe, you will summon a seeker with the mask of Sammy Lawrence, a hidden enemy of the game. In addition, using the scythe summons a hidden enemy in the game called Sammy Searcher. In Chapter 5, you will befriend Allison, Angel, and Tom. If you bring the seeing tool close to them, you will see a halo on Allison's head and a bone in Tom's mouth. It seems that the couple of former staff, Allison Pendle and Thomas Connor, rejected Joey's proposal to return to the studio according to the letter written by Allison, and that is why we can find ink versions of these characters that fall apart without a trace if they come into contact with the ink. Unlike the staff who did end up dying in the trap, Joey created them inspired by the original people, but since he had no human souls, they were much more unstable. In each chapter of Bendy and the Ink Machine, you will find a hidden radio that plays a song. All these songs are made by fans of the game, except the last one in Chapter 5, which will play Lonely Angel, I'll Be Your Angel. In Chapter 1, we will listen to Bendy and the Ink Machine song by Kyle Allen Music. In Chapter 2 sounds, Build Our Machine by DA Games.
The ink decayed, the walls are bay, but a reckoning has come today.
In Chapter 3, you can hear Bendy and the Ink musical by Random Encounters.
I still think the best of my ink machine.
And finally, in Chapter 4, you will hear Can't Be Erased by JT. More sinister apparitions and disappearances. Every time we turn on the projector in the studio in Chapter 2 and walk away a little bit, a Bendy doll appears on stage. We can do this up to 9 times, and all the room will be filled with Bendys. Subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our next videos of secrets and Easter eggs in video games. Here you can see the last ones. See you next time.